You can have a will and still lose control of the house if it passes straight to your partner. It's important to find how the property is owned, whether it's joint tenants or tenants in common, so decisions are easier later. If your partner is named as executor in your will and also holds lasting power of attorney, they may control much more of your inheritance than you expect, while still acting lawfully. Many families assume the will secures their wishes, but control can shift quietly to the survivor at the first death or loss of capacity. This shift often goes unnoticed, and it's hard to reverse. A will covers assets that fall into the estate upon death. The executor collects these assets, pays debts and taxes, and distributes what's left in line with the will. But the executor can also make some choices along the way. Lasting power of attorney is different. It covers decisions while you're alive, but can't act for yourself. It can cover money, property, health and welfare. Put those kind of two roles in the same hands, and one person controlling all of that can be handed a lot of control over your affairs. That matters because control is not just about who receives money at the end. It's about who can sign forms, sell property, move cash, settle claims, and decide what assets get kept or what are sold and get liquidated. If you lose capacity, your attorney can usually deal with your bank accounts and property in your best interests. But best interest is not a promise to keep a future inheritance for particular people. If you die, your executor manages the estate administration, handles awkward assets, and deals with disagreements. If the same person is both, there may be no natural handover where someone else checks decisions. In blended families, a surviving partner acting as attorney and later executor might sell a home to simplify life. And then children from an earlier relationship may only find out years later that their estate has changed shape and they no longer have any entitlement to the main asset, the home. What creates friction is timing, access, and authority. In the first days of crisis, the person who can act will act. They'll speak to the bank, deal with insurers, agree care arrangements, manage the mortgage, and keep the household running. When death happens, the same person is already holding the paperwork, passwords, and the relationship with advisors. Even with good intentions, that starting position is powerful. So instead of asking, do I have a will? The better question is, who can do what and when? Start with the moment you lose capacity. If your lasting power of attorney names your partner alone, treat that as a serious appointment, not a default. The common problem is picking the person you trust most emotionally without thinking about whether they can handle conflict, admin, and pressure from other relatives. A good checkpoint is that you can explain in plain words what you'd want them to prioritize if choices clash, like stability for the household versus preserving particular assets. Next, look at what happens after death, especially the executor role. If your partner is the only executor, consider if you want a second executor alongside them. This isn't to police them, but to basically share the load and create a natural second set of eyes. The common problem is thinking more than one executor means arguments, which it can, but it can also mean better record keeping, calmer decisions, and fewer suspicions because information is shared. Make sure your executors are people who can work together, are contactable, and are willing to act, not just names on a document. Now think about assets that don't always follow the will, especially pensions and life cover written into trust. A pension can sit outside the estate, and the provider will usually look at your nomination of beneficiary form and at their own discretion, not just the will. The behavior change here is to treat your pension beneficiary choice as the same transaction as updating or making your will, not as a separate admin task. The common problem is leaving an old nomination in place after a new relationship, a separation, or a remarriage and assuming the will overrides it. Property ownership and bank accounts also decide who has access in the real world. If a home is owned jointly and passes automatically to the survivor, the executor may have limited or no influence over that asset. Even if the will says something else, make sure you know in general terms how your home is held and what that means for who controls it immediately. The common problem is thinking the will covers the house without checking the legal form of ownership. If you don't know and don't have access to the title deeds, a quick check on land registry and a £7 fee can give you access to the title deeds. Check for a Form A restriction, usually stating no disposition by a sole proprietor of the registered estate. This or similar wording means the property is held as tenants in common, which means your share of the property will form part of your estate upon death. If there is no such restriction, then it is owned as joint tenants and the property will automatically pass to the survivor. If your partner is both attorney and executor, they will naturally become the keeper of the file. Make sure there's at least one other trusted person who knows where the documents are kept and what exists. It doesn't need to be every detail, but the existence of the will, the lasting power of attorney, key account providers, and who to contact. Keeping everything tidy by keeping it secret can leave others feeling shut out and suspicious later. If you're suddenly unavailable, the right person should be able to find the documents without guessing or rummaging around. One couple I came across had a will that looked fair on paper, but the surviving partner, as executor, chose to distribute personal possessions in a way that angered the family because no one had ever written down what mattered and why. Naming your partner isn't wrong. For many families, it's exactly right, but executor plus attorney means a concentration of authority, and authority has consequences even when everyone means well. It depends on your circumstance, and if you're unsure, speak to a qualified solicitor or will writer or estate planner. Small drafting details and family dynamics can make a big difference. A will isn't just a list of gifts, it's a set of permissions. Take a sheet of paper and draw 3 columns titled, "While I'm alive but can't act," "After death, during administration," "After everything is distributed." Then write down the names of who can make decisions in each column. Before you finish, check that at least one other person knows where your key documents are kept.